Hello, I'm Chaplain Walker, and I am not here to talk to you about suicide today. No, we decided a while back to try to flip this thing on its head and have more of a discussion primer for folks so that they could go deeper than we have traditionally gone before in where some of our prevention and some of our intervention efforts have failed or lacked something. Um, we at the Chaplain Corps are very interested in life, not just quality of life, but in life as something to be preserved, as something that is sacred. So, what I'd like to talk to you about today and encourage this as an ongoing dialogue is about your sacred work and mine. This is about value origins. This is about identity. This is about a person's will to live. This is even about our basic animal survival instincts. So, whenever someone approached me and they asked me, "What is your understanding about the value of life?" there are places that I'm going to come from whenever I respond to that question. If I'm a person of religious faith, then I'll probably have that heavily influence my answer in where my understanding of the value of life comes from. And I mean life like capital L, not just the individual life, but life generally, the big L. So if we were in a small group setting, and we encourage persons who may be watching this video to engage in small group discussion, because sometimes people feel a little more comfortable sharing more intimate, deep, philosophical, theological, even emotional responses to these topic areas. So, you've been given life. Congratulations. Welcome to planet Earth. You're sucking oxygen. You're living and breathing, and you're moving, and you're engaging in this thing called life. And for as long as we have it, our understanding of its importance, again, that's coming from somewhere. Where is it for you? What I found over the last 2 years, when I engage airmen and ask them this question, there's about 9 places that people almost invariably default to. And these are not exclusive, by the way. So, for example, when I talk to you about my understanding of my value of life, my life value comes from a religious base, well, that's not exclusive. There are other places, biological, for example, communal. So that's what I'd like to talk about. We're just going to prime a few of these and tell you what most people that I've visited with over, the last couple of years have indicated. So, the question. Your foundational understanding of the value of your life. Where did that come from? Why is life important to you? Where did you get that? Well, for those of us that are a faith-based people, for those who practice a religious faith or have a strong spiritual understanding of the nature of the universe, for most of them, they would say something like, well, I think life is important because I was created in the image of the Creator. Many people in the Judeo-Christian background will respond that way. And in the Muslim faith, I was made in the image of God. Many people will take that to the next level and say, well, as a person, part of a community, a human family that was created in the likeness of their Creator, we are also chosen. Because all the sacred texts that we know of that reflect positively on a relationship between a creator and the created, there's something in that text about them being selected, extra special, chosen, if you will. And so you hear people say things like, well, we were a people who were not forgotten. We were a people who were rescued, or the spiritual term redeemed. These kind of elements in the vocabulary, these kinds of words will often point you in the direction of someone who very definitely, positively relates to the fact that their life is precious and special and worth something because they are chosen, redeemed, valued, by the one that made them. And then there's people who orient towards what we call the relational. So if you're a relational person, then we say, your sense of your life having value and meaning comes from the fact that someone you relate to in a very significant, profound, psychological, emotional way told you that you are special, that you are valuable, that you have something about you that is significant and that it's to be treasured, nurtured. There was a young lady in a town where I was serving recently, and she was a suicide survivor. She was 14 years old, a teenager, and when her counselor was helping her to get sort of back on track with a positive outlook on life, and she was restoring a lot of what she felt like had been taken from her own circumstances in this life, that teenager was asked, what do you think contributes the most to your understanding of your life being worth preserving? In other words, what would convince you that you should never even think about taking yourself out of the big L life or ending your own? And she teared up a little bit and she said, the only person who ever told me that I was worth anything was my grandmother. And she said to me, honey, you are so special. You are so unique. There's nobody else in the universe like you. This is an extreme example, and unfortunately from a negative side effect of someone who's trying to be in recovery of their life. But the positive spin on that is that many people do gravitate toward a sense of their own worth and their own existence meaning something because someone they identify with very significantly, very powerfully, gave that to them. And we do not discount this. There are a lot of people in our human family who relate to that. That's where their value origin is. A third one is moral. This one's really deep, so hold on. So for the person who relates to the moral foundation for their sense of self-worth and sacredness, they're the ones who get it that human beings are the most intelligent, the most capable, and by consequence of our own abilities and intelligence, the most lethal species on the planet. Let's face it, folks, especially in a nuclear environment, we are the only species on the planet historically that has been and is capable of annihilating not only ourselves en masse, but the entire planet. We could blow all of this up. So that's a negative kind of a view of it, but to give you an idea of how deep this goes, the people with that kind of power must exercise it very carefully. I think it was Uncle Ben speaking to Peter Parker that said, with great power comes great responsibility. You get me? That's where this sense of our ethical duty to go on comes from. So for these people, you will find a strong sense of the patriotic, the sense of we are all part of a larger citizenship that is humanity. We owe it to the preservation of all of this that is life to be sort of the caretakers of it. We are stewards, if you will, because of our status in nature, to hold on, to live, to be preserved, to go on so that we can take care and make sure that things are going to be okay for a people who will live perhaps 200,000 years from now. A fourth is the people who relate to the biological. Now, my friends that are atheists, and I have quite a few, they are very spirited about this one, and they are like, right on, Chaplain, I understand this totally. So if you relate to the biological as your foundation about why life has value and meaning, then you simply need to look at all the other people, not people, but all the other species on the planet. Just about everything that has been given life on the planet has a sense of self-preservation. It's hardwired. It's in our DNA. And so even, I used to live in Alligator. I used to live in the lower south in Louisiana, and we have a lot of alligators there. And I'm sorry, an alligator might not be the most intelligent animal on the planet. His brain may be like that. But even an alligator mama is territorial about her eggs in the nest. There is a sense of protection that is hardwired in DNA, even of a lizard, to try to protect the survival of the species. And so for the people that orient to the biological as being their sense of the will to live, their value origin, they're the ones who get it that we're all hardwired for fight or flight. So if that's instinctive, that if something threatening is coming in the door, you're either going to fight or flight, then that is not only a universal, but it must be an imperative somehow for all things that have been given the gift of life. And so that can be a very compelling value origin. The next one I want to talk about that I alluded to earlier is the communal. And a lot of people resonate with this one, hence the word communal, community. So for the people who would consider their value origin to be based in a strong sense of the communal, these are people who understand that individuals are part of a greater whole. So if we're stronger as a group, then the loss of even one diminishes the overall impact and value of the group. It's integrity, and not like doing the right thing when no one's looking, but integrity as in there's strength in this more than this. For the people who orient to the communal as their life value, they will tend to have a strong sense of our club, our band, our shop, our squadron even, as being a sense of almost family, and they really mean that. We are strong, we are valued as individuals because we're part of something greater than ourselves, and we do not discount this. Many times I've talked to airmen as a chaplain, and they'll tell you real quick about whether they feel loyalty in their unit with their supervision or with their coworkers, and they'll often put it like this. You probably heard this before, or you may have even said it yourself. They'll say, yeah, that shop really has my back. That's exactly what that means. That's a sense that I am a part of them. They will be protecting me. They will go to bat for me. They will stand up for me when I'm not there. And if I screw up, they will probably be standing in there in their blues with me in front of the commander. And that goes a long, long way with many of us. That's because it's part of our value origin. It's our understanding of life. So, are you a communal person? Many of us are. The next one on my list, a lot of people have a value origin based on the missional. And this one's kind of like some of the others, but it is unique in this sense. There was a book written a while back called The Purpose-Driven Life. And although it was from the religious side of the house, that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about for any of us who have a sense that I was put here for a reason. I feel like there's some purpose that I am aiming towards, some accomplishment, something that I need to fulfill while I'm sucking oxygen on this planet and before it's all done for me. And so for those persons, it can be a very compelling reason to look to the future as the place they're going to get it done. Or even immediately now, what am I doing now that is pointing me in the direction for this great accomplishment, this great goal, this task that I've been put here for? This is a fun thing to have discussions with among 5 and 6 year olds, because they're starting to move into that abstract thought position where they're like, yeah, I'm going to be the president someday, or yeah, I want to be the one that's the first one on another planet in the solar system, as a human being to explore that. Or these are the people who have a strong sense that my will to live comes from my necessity to get something done really big and important. That's your missional based folks. Pretty awesome. The next one I want to talk to you about is very similar to that, and it is curiosity. it might not be quite as big and noble as the ones who say, I want to be the first one to plant the flag on another planet, or I want to be the one that goes out and cures the COVID virus, the missional people. But the curious are more objectively scientific about it. The people that have curiosity as a basis for their life origin are the ones that say, I want to wake up tomorrow because I want to see what tomorrow holds. Is that you? Does that sound familiar? Is that someone you can relate to or someone you've met? These are the people that are the incurable optimists. I can't wait to see what February is going to look like here because I've never lived in an environment like this in North Dakota before. So where some would look with dread, perhaps, the ones that have curiosity as a strong value origin in their understanding of life means that life contains an infinite number of mysteries that are still out there to be solved. That's it. They're the great detectives. They're the hardcore scientists that want to explore and examine and probe just for scientific sake, to find out and learn new things that we didn't know before. These are your ones that are like, well, we got to figure out how to overcome the pressures of deep underwater exploration because we've never been there before. And so these are your explorers, your discoverers. These are most definitely where the futurists are. And I consider myself a futurist, by the way. That's simply someone that is incurably optimistic about all of the possibilities yet before us as a people and what the future holds. The next to the last one I want to engage your thinking with and invite you to explore and talk about are the people who say that their sense of their worth and importance in life, their value origin, if you will, is that it's simply irresistible, that life is irresistible. What are you fighting this for? Life is life. It is incredible. It is engaging. It's not like any other thing that we know of in the universe. It is the consistent production, reproduction, and renewal. It seems to want to go on. It seems that anything that's appearing to get in the way of life is going to lose. Look at the ancient ruins of just about any civilization, especially in places like South and Central America. It's fascinating how long, or how short a time, more appropriately, it takes for vines, trees, moss, mold, the animal community to just pretty much move in and take over that, and it becomes something new, something different, almost reborn. That constant sense of renewal is what we're talking about when we talk about people who understand the value of life is that it's amazingly irresistible. Now, if you're a fan of Jurassic Park, like I am, you may remember Dr. Ian Malcolm, who's one of my favorite enigmatic characters from that movie series and the book. Ian Malcolm's character in the first Jurassic Park book and movie, he's the one that has this great line. He says, life will not be contained. Life breaks free. It expands to new territories, crashes through barriers, painfully sometimes, maybe even dangerously. Life always finds a way. And I love that. And the last category I want to talk to you about is our folks who understand for their appreciation of life and its value to them. They understand life in the terms of benevolence. And by benevolence, I mean giving, gift. So for these people, they understand when you hear the copa de la vida that life is not something to be exploited, nor is it something to be rejected, haphazardly treated. Life is a gift. And so necessarily most of us who are given a gift, especially a really big one, we feel like we need to do something in response to that. It's human nature. So for the people who understand their value origin for life as benevolence, they very often will say things like, I need to respond in some way by giving back. the things that have been given to me in this life, I need to, go and reciprocate in some way. I'm going to dedicate my life to this because it's been given to me, this opportunity, or, the value of this life, and I want to share whatever that gift is with others. So that's where you see people saying, I'm going to dedicate my life to fill in the blank. It's out of a sense of gratitude that motivates them. So there you have it, folks. In a nutshell, it's a deep introspective look at your and my understanding of life, capital L, you being a part of that life, its value, origin, identity, the will to live, our survival instincts, all of that rolled into where'd it come from as the fundamental question. And we invite you to examine that. Is it faith? Is it relational? Is it moral? Is it biological? Communal? Missional? Curiosity? Irresistible? Or benevolence? Maybe it's even something that I didn't think about that you come up with and you'd like to talk about in a group setting, or you'd like to come by and talk to us so we can learn something from you about it. We invite you to dialogue. That's where all of this really is going to give us, I think, a greater meaning deep down in our own lives and in the sense of our Air Force family, our colleagues, our coworkers, our family. Thanks for your time. That's all I got to say about that. Drop the mic.